Good morning, good afternoon everybody. I am Raghunandan Sengupta from the IME department IIT Kanpur. So, the course for the NPTEL MOOC which I will be delivering to all of you would be related to quantitative finance. So, before I start off with the program, I will just discuss the syllabus, and the syllabus would basically have two big components. One is the tool or the set of tools and techniques which you will study, plus the application which will be there in the area of finance. So, that is why the first part, which is the tools, would be the quantitative techniques like mathematical techniques, statistical techniques, simulation techniques, computational techniques, and how those techniques and tools are used in finance, starting from, say for example, trying to find out the portfolio analysis, doing the derivative pricing, trying to find out the stock prices, trying to find out the risk, so on and so forth. So, before we start off the course today, I will just go very briefly through the syllabus, and obviously you can have a look at the reference list. I am not saying the reference list is exhaustive. There are huge amount of materials in the net, in different libraries, but this is a small set based on which you definitely, if you do an exhaustive search, you will definitely find some relevant materials. So, the first part of the syllabus is basically the areas which we will cover. So, it will basically cover not in depth, it will be more of the application side related to interest rates, net present values, how net present values are utilized to find out continuous compounding concepts, how they are used to find out the different type of portfolios, balance the portfolios, try to find out the internal rate of returns, and how when you are trying to balance two different portfolios, trying to balance two different stocks, trying to balance two different investment purposes, considering whether stocks are there, whether options are there, how the interest rate can be used, how interest rates can be used to minimize the risk also. We will consider bonds, the yields of the bonds, the duration, the immunizations, how these techniques are used. Again, as I am mentioning, it will be more of the tools and the final results rather than the proofs. We will consider, as we discuss the concept of time series, as we discuss the concept of econometric techniques, of linear regression, multiple linear regression, we will try to analyze how capital asset pricing is used, how the market line is drawn, how you utilize the market line to find out the prices, the betas, what is betas, we will consider that also in detail. Then we will consider the factor models, if they are single factors, if they are multiple factors, how they can be modeled in line with the markets, and try to find out what are the existing concepts, assumptions of arbitrage pricing theory, which is APT. We will consider optimal portfolios, how they are formed, and how you find out the risk aversion, the pricing of the stocks or of the stocks, what are the different type of distribution we consider, whether it's normal, non-normal, whether you consider extreme value distribution to be true, what are the different concepts of probability theory we use, we will come to that later on also. We will consider in a very big way the areas of derivatives. Derivatives in a very simple way is that derived products. So, derived products can be forward, futures, options, different type of exotic options, different type of swaps, how they are used in order to basically minimize the risk. So, our main concern will be to minimize the risk rather than trying to understand that how you try to maximize your profit, because risk as a word is very important in finance and generally in quantitative finance. How we try to basically find it out, we will come to that. We will consider different type of multi-period securities, risk analysis, how they are done, value of the risk, conditional value of risk, and we will also consider later on the Coppola theory, market risk, operational risk, so on and so forth. Now, the tools and techniques which we will study, so it will be a swap between the techniques and the way we try to utilize the techniques in the area of quantitative finance as such. So, I will be using the concept of quantitative finance in a very broad sense. So, we will consider very simply in the concept of microeconomic theory, how demand and supply basically gives you the optimal price and the optimal quantity, because prices, once you find out, it is very important how you find out the returns, because given a price you want to find out what is the positive and negative returns, based on which you can find out your actual prices, based on which you can optimize your portfolio. We will consider different type of probability theory, law of large numbers, why law of large numbers are important, what is the concept of different type of Bayes theorem, how conditional probabilities are important. We will consider those things also in in depth when you go into the areas of, say for example, Coppola theory and portfolio optimization. We will consider different type of probability distributions, like if normality does not hold, and if normality does not hold, then obviously we will try to basically make a simile that what are the concept of utility theories which are useful in those cases. We will consider how other type of distributions, how extreme value theory, how Gumbel distribution, then different type of Pareto distributions are utilized in the area of portfolio and risk management. We will try to find out the different techniques of estimation, how the best estimates are found out given a small data sets in finance. We will solve simple examples. Then we will consider that in the area of options, when you go into the concept of trying to find out the option pricing, how stochastic processes are used, what are the random walks, how random walks can be utilized to find out the prices, how random walks are also utilized in different type of simulation techniques. We will come to that later on. And what is the concept of martingales, what are the properties of martingales they are used, what is the ergodic theory and how they are utilized in finance. We will go through that. In the area of mathematical methods, like what we mean by a function, multivariate function, how different type of numerical techniques like Runge-Kutta method, Newton-Raphson method, how they are used to find out different optimum solution or suboptimum solution, considering the problems cannot be solved using any general known techniques. We will go through those also. In the area of operational research, we will basically go through initially the Markovich's principle theory and why he came up with that work based on which you can find out the optimum portfolio. We will consider that also. We will consider different techniques of optimization, what is Lagrangian, how Lagrangian helps us in trying to formalize and solve problems very simply. We will consider that also. We will consider later on and as time changes, how your portfolio can be readjusted depending on the time. So, as prices are changing, as you are buying and selling stocks, we will consider those very simple techniques of dynamic programming, stochastic programming, where the inputs are all non-deterministic. And recently in the last 5, 6 years or 10 years, the concept of reliability theory, how they are used in finance, mainly in the area of portfolio optimization, we will consider those also. How robust optimization are used, we will consider that also. So, and as we come to the econometric method, time series method, how time series econometric methods would be utilized to use the different techniques of EGARCH, ARIMA model, GARCH methods, how they are used to find out the prices as well as try to basically find out the optimal portfolio, how you try to minimize the risk, how you try to find out the best estimate of the prices based on which you can, if you go back later on, we will see that how different techniques in econometrics and time series can be used to find out the optimum prices in the CAPM model, in the APT model with very simple examples. And then later on, given different type of data sets, we will see that how different concept of Monte Carlo simulation, then MCMC methods and different type of computational techniques can be utilized in the area of trying to find out different portfolios, different type of options pricing and so on and so forth. So, this is in a very broad nutshell what are the things we will cover. Obviously, there are many details as we proceed. For the interested readers, we will just consider that what are the different textbooks which are available. Now, considering the huge amount of information which is available in net, so I personally think that if somebody does a very good Google search related to these techniques, obviously there is a huge amount of information. But considering that some focus should be there, so I have just listed few of the books which are easily available in any library, or they can be purchased from the market in Indian edition. Now, one of the good books in the area, at least to give a preliminary information about how markets operate, is the book by Prasanna Chandra. Then a very good book by operation research mathematician is by David G. Leuenberger, which is the second one. Then when we come into options futures, how you find out the prices of the option futures in a very rudimentary way, considering the whole gamut of things which we will consider is very big, is the fourth one, which is John C. Hull's book, and obviously there are Indian editions to that. A good, even though it's a little bit old book, is the first one, which is Modern Portfolio Theory. Then we will have generally discussions about William Sharpe's book, where it considers in a very qualitative way and in a very nice and exhaustive manner that what are the different type of concept of options, what are the different type of definitions they have. Then new books which are available in the market, obviously in the foreign market is the book by Quantitative Finance by Stephen Blythe, and another book which has a very specific utilization of the statistics methods, and I found that book to be good without being very rigorous. One of the book which is the 8th one, which is basically Statistics and Finance and Introduction by David Rupert. So this is a small set. I am sure the students, once they proceed, they are following the notes, they are following the lectures, they do their own search. I am sure these, apart from this book, there will be a lot of other informations which they can utilize in order to at least get themselves well accustomed to the different concepts of quantitative finance, how they are used in the daily market, and how they can be basically utilized in different type of practical application. Now, having said that, I will try to basically pinpoint 2 important points. Point number 1, this is not a course for people who want to basically invest in the stock market. That is a different ball game, because for that we generally consider different type of fundamental analysis, technical analysis which need to be studied by people. So, you have to have some informations about how the stocks are doing, what are the shares are doing, what is the profit and loss account, what are the balance sheet, what are the business areas, how the stocks are doing. So, we would not discuss that. It is basically giving you an overview, we will not be going to that depth. Point number 2 is that if you go to the introduction lecture, that why this course is important, I did mention that there is a huge dearth of good faculty members and for students who are really interested to pick up these nuances of quantitative finance. So, we suppose that this course would be a good starting point for the students who are really interested in the area of quantitative finance. Now, having said that, so through the syllabus, we will first discuss in a very brief method and do a very brief analysis that what are the techniques in economics and in general utility theory, how demand supply are utilized in order to basically understand the overall environment. It is not that we have to basically go through each and every techniques, each and every method, but we will basically give a good understanding or overall concepts, as that once you go into the nuances of quantitative finance, it will give you a good feel that given the preliminary background, people will be able to understand the quantitative finance technique as a method. So, with this I will just close the syllabus related PPT slide, and then I will start off with the basic introduction, which will be the first so called set of lectures which will basically kickstart the whole process in the area of quantitative finance. So, as I proceed, obviously I will be scribbling on the PPT slides that what are the different type of equations which can be derived. So, my methodology of teaching would be more PPT based and lectures, and obviously as we proceed there would be cases where I may try to use the board or may try to use the computer in order to highlight of the few of the facts. And later on, if required, I will definitely log on to few of the websites which will give you a lot of information that how the data can be downloaded, or who are the good people who work in the area of quantitative finance, what are the different type of data sets which are used, what are the different type of softwares you are used. So, I am not going to come into the details immediately, but as it proceeds, as I find the need, we will definitely discuss about that.